Hello, everybody. Welcome to another fantastic, amazing webinar. If you're here with me live, please go ahead and type in the chat, say hello to me, and hit that like button, hit subscribe. It helps us out. Now, let me shut my door, just shutting the door to my office. I'm getting a slightly behind schedule today. It's been a hectic, crazy day. So remember, like I said, if you are here with us live, hit that like button. If you haven't already, head on over to passbuddy.com. That's where I keep all my practice questions, tips, tricks, all that stuff. And this is the dashboard right here. So you can see it's a really nice, clean setup that we have for you. And it helps you because you know what? I wanted to make a situation where you had really great tools that were visually appealing and made it easy for you to get through all of these practice exams and all the tools that we have. So, let's take a look. Let's jump right into our first question. The first question says, when applying the market comparison approach, all the following factors are considered except the time the time that the other sales took place, the reproduction costs, the square footage, or the exterior features. So what say you in the chat? What say you? What say you in the chat? So this one, you have to realize the market data approach or the sales comparison approach. I want to ask the question, okay? What is what is that typically used for? So like what type of properties is an appraiser typically appraising when they are using the sales comparison or market data approach? What are they typically doing when they appraise that? So what they're typically appraising is going to be 1 to 4 family properties. So it's usually used for that. Okay. So what wouldn't they consider? It's a situation where they wouldn't consider the reproduction costs because that's going to be in the in the what was I going to say? That's going to be in the cost approach. Okay, so in the cost approach, and actually let me remove that from the tutor list. What I want to do is I want to jump to another question because there's one that I wanted to go over. I think it was like the 18th one. Actually, no, 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 that wasn't the one. I'm jumping around. Ooh, this one. So when conducting a market analysis, a licensee should compare the subject property to all but which of the following: sold comparables at the same nature, comparables that are presently for sale, sold comparables close to the property, or sold comparables in a similar neighborhood. So what say you? So when conducting a market analysis, so using like creating a CMA, right? Um, they should compare the subject to all but which of the following. So all of them, but which of the following? Okay. So there is one that is not like the others. Okay. There is one that is not like the others. And that's going to be comparables that are presently for sale. Okay. So why shouldn't they do that, right? Why shouldn't they do that? Well, they could do that, but why they shouldn't is because it wouldn't be in line with what an appraisal is going to present. So now imagine this. You ready? So if we're doing a CMA, right, or an analysis, okay, it's a situation where if we're doing a CMA, or a comparative market analysis, what happens is We're actually trying to figure out what should the property sell for. We're looking for market value on the property, right? Market price is what it sells for, market value is what it should sell for, right? And what happens is it's a situation where bottom line is comparables that are presently for sale wouldn't be considered an appraisal. So if they're not considered an appraisal, then is that going to be a good indicator of what a home should sell for, what the appraised price would be? Because so picture this. Let's just create a town. Ready? Stewville. Okay. We're creating Stewville, USA. And now in Stewville, USA, the homes all sell around the same time, like, and it's usually at the end of a quarter. So, and this is a hypothetical made up little town. And in this town of Stewville, all the homes sell around the end of the quarter. So all the homes in that town that were going to sell sold. And they all sold for about 500,000, right? So now if we were, let's say 3 weeks after, right? And we were going to get ready to market a home in Stewville for the next round of sales that's going to come up. So like at the end of the next quarter, right? Because that's how it goes in this made up imaginary town, okay? And now I'm looking at that as an agent in Stewville, the broker in Stewville, okay? And I say, "Hey, all these homes sold for around 500,000. We should probably list it for about 500,000, maybe a little more, right? Because everything sold pretty quickly then." And then what happens is a house down the street and a house around the corner all go on the market for $700,000. Now, should I price our home at $700,000 versus pricing it at 500,000? Now, here's the thing, as a seller, right? You know, as a seller, it's a situation where what happens is this: you might want to list it for 700,000, but as far as what the market value would be, right? What it should sell for is it probably should sell for closer to what the other homes sold for several weeks prior versus what these new homes are going on the market for. That's a willy-nilly price. That's why comparables that are presently for sale probably not going to be a good indicator of market value, right? Let's take a look at this one. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to type it into the chat. I'd be more than happy to try to answer it for you. So, this one says John received an appraisal at 250,000 for his property that he ended up selling to his daughter for 150,000. How will the selling price be identified in the appraisal terms? Is it an arm's length transaction, market value, market price, or replacement value? Okay. So, what are they going to call this? Are they going to say that this is market value, market price, and arm's length transaction? Right. So, this is going to be identified as market price because listen to what I'm going to tell you. Because a couple people in our Facebook group typed in arm's length transaction. Now, let me explain why that isn't the case and why it is going to be identified as market price. Because remember what I said, okay? I said that the that the what the home sells for is the market price. Right? What it sells for is the market price. The market value is what it should sell for. Right. So the market value, right, is going to be what it should sell for. Now, when a transaction is at arm's length, that means that the person that is purchasing it is not close to you. You can put an arm out and not touch them. Okay. So arm's length transactions actually represent market value. Okay. So, um, yeah, absolutely. So arm's length, Kevin just said it. Back up, I don't know you. You don't get any discounts. I like that, Kevin. Kevin's actually a part of the Pass Buddy team over here. I love actually when Kevin joins in and gives us some good little tips and tidbits. So that's why, hey, if you haven't already hopped on to the live right now, let me tell you, check us out over at passbuddy.com because we have all of our webinars up. I'm actually going to show you. You know what I'm going to do? Talked about arm's length transactions. I'm going to show you all of the webinars that we have coming up. So you can see when you go into the webinar section, so you go to the dashboard, right? You click on webinars, and guess what? Right here, you're going to see you could join us. So if you were here right now live, you would see that flashing and you would be like, hey, I know they're live. They're live right then and there. And then guess what? If you wanted to find out, like if you want to type in math, right? You could see all the math ones that we had. There's one on December 12th, December 17th, and we have a backlog of all the different ones where we go over stuff. And I try to change it up. I try to go over different questions each and every time. So if you do want to catch the next live again, tomorrow we're going live at 12 p.m. Eastern. Okay. That's something that I do encourage you all to go ahead and do. And also check us out on our other social media platforms. TikTok, guess what? Just posted a video there of a math question that we did today. On I believe today we were doing one on cap rate. We have a couple of them. Check them out over at our TikTok channel. You just type in Pass Buddy and you'll find us there. But getting back to this, yeah, arm's length basically means, hey, I don't know the person, right? But when they're within arm's length, you're like giving them a hug. It's a situation where you are probably giving them a preferential price, like in this one where he sells it to his daughter for 150,000. So arm's length and market value actually somewhat synonymous, right? Because an arm's length transaction is going to represent market value. But what we have here is simply market price because that's what it's sold for. And again, thank you so much for that little saying. I like that. That was a good one. So let's look at this one. This says an appraiser was hired to evaluate the feasibility of adding a clubhouse and an indoor pool to a 300 unit apartment complex. What principle of value will play a major role in the study? Is it contribution, conformity, regression, or substitution? Right? So they added an indoor pool to a 300 unit. What do we got here? So a lot of things, a lot of people always struggle with the different principles of value. Listen to what I'm going to tell you. This is something that's really important, and sometimes this helps students kind of flush out the situation with identifying these. Okay, when we're talking about principles of value, okay, I know that a lot of you say, I need to learn this for the real estate exam. So I'm going to basically try to understand these in terms of real estate. And I think that a lot of people get tripped up with that. But actually, what's really funny is that anything that has value, listen to me very closely. I want you to write this down because we're going over a valuation webinar today. And I think this one's really important. So have your notepad out, write this down. The principles of value apply to anything with value. Oh, oh, oh. So now it totally changes your whole entire world. So this one, what happens is that pool is contributing to the value of that property. It's usually adding value. But watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how we take these principles of value and we understand them through the lens of maybe something other than real estate, right? So the principle of substitution, and I always love this because I think this is a great example, and it's actually a true story. Okay, hand to God, I'm going to tell you a true story now. Okay, ready? So, Papa Stu. Okay, so my old man, he is an avid bar scene guru over at the Jersey Shore. No, I'm not even kidding you. He's almost 75 years old. He goes to the music scene. Everyone actually knows him. It's funny. He used to own a music instrument shop and he can't play a lick on a guitar. Loves music trivia, knows almost every musician at the Jersey Shore. Now, I digress though. So now you have that backstory. Now, Papa J, he is someone that he will drink two drinks. He will drink Heineken or he will drink Corona. Now, you might say those two are not two drinks that I would drink. I prefer this one over that one. You might have your own mix of drinks that you find easily substitutable. The principle of substitution basically says that you will not pay, a consumer will not pay more for one item that they find comparable to the other. right? So when Papa J goes to a bar, if Heineken is $1 and Corona is $5, guess what he's drinking all night? He's drinking the Heinies because to him, they're substitutable. So to that consumer, they won't pay the $5 for the Corona, right? They won't do that, right? Um, and I also like that with conformity because I think that what happens with conformity is students also struggle with this. So let me kind of dive into it a little bit. And also, too, listen to what I'm going to tell you. One of the great things about these webinars is the webinars really aren't about the questions, as you notice. The questions are a springboard, a tool for a further discussion. So if you do have any questions, concerns, burning desires, type them into the chat. I'd be more than happy to take a look at them, answer them for you. And guess what? If you comment on any of our webinars that we have up here, remember you hit that like button, hit subscribe. It helps us out over to the Pass Buddy team. Well, we will get to those questions maybe in another webinar, or we'll shoot you a comment, right? Or reply. We can go ahead and do that over on YouTube. So conformity basically means when all things are in harmony with one another, you'll see the highest and best price, right? You'll see the highest price that you can get for it. And let me give you an example again, using things other than real estate, okay? So I am an avid, I don't know if you know this, Kevin, about me, if you're still here, but I'm going to tell you a little tidbit. I'm going to share this with all the past buddy folks out there in the audience. I collect certain things. So I have three things I collect, but I'm going to talk about one thing I collect. I collect fountain pens. I collect high end, super duper crazy price fountain pens. I have a collection that would probably shock and amaze even the most avid of collectors. But now you're probably thinking, how does this help us understand conformity? Well, I'll give you a perfect example. Okay, when I go to a thrift store, right? So I go to the thrift store and I see a fountain pen there. Well, the fountain pen is amongst jeans, is amongst playing cards, is amongst VCRs. Not everything conforms, okay? Because not everything conforms, I'm probably getting that fountain pen at a really good deal because they don't know what they have there. And people aren't going in there to buy fountain pens. They're not going in there to buy a specific thing, okay? So I'm going to now pay probably a cheaper price than I would when I go to the Fountain Pen Hospital in New York City. Fountain Pen Hospital is one of my favorite fountain pen stores. I go in, it's in downtown Manhattan. And when I go there, okay, and there's a used fountain pen there, I'm paying top dollar primo buku bucks. I am not getting a deal and a half at all, but I have a wider selection, and all they sell is fountain pens. Now I won't find a VCR there. I won't find anything else because what happens is, and I'm taking the same exact product, right? And I'm just moving it from being sold in a store that is not in harmony, does not conform, and then I'm basically taking it to a store that does have conformity. So now let me give you that example of when we're talking about real estate, right? So if I had a street that had all different style homes, all different colors, all different shapes and sizes and things of that nature, okay, I would say that any given home there is going to sell similar to like a thrift store. It's going to be like, oh, well, there's nothing that really compares to this. So basically, they're going to come in and it's going to be like, well, maybe someone likes that home when it goes on sale. And it might be something that they might not see the highest value that they possibly can for that, as opposed to you go into a development, every single house is gray. There's two models of homes. Okay. So basically, in there, you could pinpoint with laser accuracy what the value of those properties would be. Hey now, hey now, hey now. So let me ask this. If you have any questions, concerns, burning desires, go ahead, type it into the chat. And Kevin, am I doing good? Probably teaching Kevin a thing or two. Let's look at this one. This one says, after showing him several properties, a buyer asked the agent to take him back to an earlier house that appeared to have similar features but is being offered at a lower price. This behavior by a buyer is based on which appraisal principles of value? Highest and best use, conformity, regression, or substitution? I'm going to tell you we just talked about something similar to this. Okay. What did we talk about? And think what I want you to do as a student, I want you to think about what example I gave you where maybe there were two things that were similar, right? And then you're like, hey, that one's a lower price, right? Remember the example of Papa J at the bar drinking the Heinies and Coronas, right? And he's buying the Heinekens because they're on sale for $1. Okay. That's the principle of substitution, ain't it? Yeah, absolutely. So now, what I want to do is this I want to point out like, now do you see how when you understand a principle, when you understand one of the principles of value, how you could apply that, how you could actually take that understanding and say, oh man, I get what that is. So now I'm going to be able to apply it to a question. So here's the thing the conversation we just had should have made this question a lot easier because absent that explanation, absent that story, you might still struggle. Like I can see how you could struggle with some of these. And actually, you know what we'll do? We'll talk about regression next because this is the first we didn't talk about it the last time, right? And it's a situation where I want to talk about it now. So, if you're here with me live, what is regression? What is the principle of regression? Well, the principle of regression is this, okay? And actually, we could go back to the thrift store, okay? Because the thrift store is actually a great example of it, okay? It's when basically something is being held down by the value of things around it, okay? So, we'll do thrift store and then we'll do real estate, right? So, regression. If I went to Goodwill or I went to my local thrift store over at the Jersey Shore, okay, and I saw, let's say, an Hermes Birkin, okay, you know, I saw a Birkin. Am I probably going to get it for a lower price than if I went to Bloomingdale's and I went the pre-loved route? I think that's what they call it now. Like they're calling the used or the pre-owned. They're like, oh, it's been pre-loved, right? So yeah, that's I think I was looking at it the other day, and I say that because I actually was looking at Birkins. No, not for Mrs. Stu. Mrs. Stu would never want a Birkin, ever, 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 ever in the history of man. However, I was just looking out of curiosity because I knew that the valuation webinar was coming up, and I actually really like, taking the principles of value and actually applying them across different sectors and across different and across different examples to help you gain that understanding. So I hope that helped you out, and I hope also this webinar has helped you gain a better understanding. So what I want to do is this before we wrap up. I want to remind you that if you haven't already, head on over to passbuddy.com. Also, hit that like button, hit subscribe, check us out over on TikTok. That's where we have all our math videos going up. We have some of them coming over onto YouTube, okay? But check that out because that's really going to help you out as far as, understanding math because I know so many people struggle with that. So I try to help you out with that. So that being said, listen, everyone, have a great, wonderful, fantastic remainder of your day. I will see you all real soon. Have a great one, everybody.